would like to tell you about that. First of all, how it was even possible how it was introduced to me to even go. And then how my visa hadn't arrived yet, and I was needing to head off to the airport, and how it came at the last minute, and there was a telegram, a copy of the telegram, and there that they sent to the Israel conference president, please pick Henry up on Wednesday at 3 o'clock at the airport on June 16th. And I thought, first of all, the Israel conference president is in America attending the GC session, so he's not there. And second of all, I'm not getting there Wednesday, June 16th. I'm getting there Tuesday. So nobody's going to pick me up. And then when I was there, I got detained. They interrogated me for 3 hours and finally let me go. And when I got to Nazareth, I didn't have an address. I knew where we were on the third floor of the Barclays Bank building. We were on the third floor. But I didn't have the address or anything because I was expecting to be picked up and driven there. So I was on the bus and I got to Nazareth, and I had money. I changed my dollars into shekels at the airport. So, but I didn't have a lot, And so anyway, I get there. I said, where am I going to stop in Nazareth? And I'm looking out the window and I see Barclays Bank. And so I look up. Sure enough, right up on top, it said Seventh-day Adventist Health Education and Language School. This is my stop. So I pushed the button to tell them to stop at the corner. I got out, had my bags. I crossed the street, had my bags. I was looking up, of course, because I was detained 3 hours. It was already after 9 o'clock. Everybody they went home. And so I was just there looking and said, what am I going to do? And somebody comes up to me and says, are you the new English teacher? I said, yes, I am. He said, I work up there, but everybody's gone home. You'll have to spend the night in a hotel. So he called one of his friends, a taxi friend, came in a taxi and explained the situation, and so I got in the taxi, he got in, and off we went to the hotel. And as I'm filling out the information, they wanted my passport and all that, so I reached in my bag where my passport used to be and realized that it wasn't there. When I was at the airport changing my dollars into shekels, they needed my passport and all that, or they needed things. I must have left it there. So anyway, long story short, I end up reporting it to the police. They said, go ahead and stay at the hotel. But it was expensive. It was a hotel, not a motel. And I didn't want to spend most of my money that first night, so I had the taxi drop me off at our building. I gave him some money for the ride. And I found about half a block away, not too far, I found an alley. And it was dark. There was a little building there, like a little square box. It was actually a taxi headquarters for a specific taxi company. People would call in, and somebody in there would dispatch to the taxi driver saying, pick somebody up at this place. They were closed. And so I walked down that alley, dark alley, and I found the dark, shadowy side of that little box, of that building, and I put my suit bag, my hanging bag, I laid that on the ground. I had my carry-on bag, which was a smaller one. I had that as my pillow. I had my other suitcase with me, and I laid down to go to sleep. I could see people walking, on the street, on the sidewalks and all that, cars passing by. Nobody could see me, because even if they looked down my way, I was in the shadows and all that, but by the time their eyes would have adjusted, they would already be past that, So I felt okay, but that text kept coming to my mind. Can any good thing come out of Nazareth? I did a lot of praying that night. I said, God, number one, I don't think you brought me all the way over here for anything bad to happen to me. So I feel good as far as that. I'm here on your mission. I was going to be teaching English for 10 months. I still am a little worried, but let me be able to sleep soundly. And I did. I fell right asleep until the mosque, which was half a block away, started doing its recorded prayer. And that prayer woke me up. It was starting to get a little bit light, so I got up, got all my things, carried it to the bank building, and I looked inside the bank. 4 o'clock in the morning. What am I doing up so soon, so early? Well, I waited there. Somebody finally came, opened up, and everything was fine. That weekend, I did go back to the airport, and I went to an information desk, and I said, did anybody turn in a yellow envelope? She reached down and said, is this what you mean? Everything was in there. My passport, my return ticket, my visa, everything was there. And had a really good year. I want to tell you an experience that I had there that I feel like I lived a Bible text. And see if you can guess which Bible text as I'm telling the story. The director of the language school took me one Friday to Tiberias. It was a little town. It probably took 10 minutes driving from Nazareth to Tiberias. We went and picked up some Bibles from a bookstore and then came back. He showed me the Sea of Galilee and all of that. So we went back to our building. And the next day, Saturday night, we did something at the center. I locked up. It was probably about 10 o'clock at night. I was walking home. And I thought about Tiberias. We'd just gone there the day before. I said, what would be neat is if I took a picture of the sunrise coming off the Sea of Galilee. That would be a good picture. So I had a plan that I would be like Jesus and the disciples. They walked all over the place. They walked from Nazareth to Tiberias. I wanted to say that I was able to walk from Nazareth to Tiberias. How many people today can say that? Not many people. So I had this idea that I would go home, I would make a big meal to sustain a long trip, and I got my camera, I got my swimsuit, and I got a lunch on the way back, and I got some money for the bus and on the way back. And so I was all ready, and it was probably midnight by now. I started walking. I hadn't told anybody. I just started walking from Nazareth to Tiberias. And I went through town. It was okay, but as soon as I got out of town, the street lights had ended. And so I was there in the dark, going down the highway, and I could hear, there's some little houses spotted along. I could hear dogs barking, and I thought, oh God, please keep those dogs over there. And pretty soon my feet started hurting. I mean, I have walked before, maybe not that far, but I have walked before. My feet were hurting. And I said, I am afraid to hitchhike. I don't know who I will attract. But I also, more than that, I want to be able to say that I walked from Nazareth to Tiberias. That was my goal. Maybe it was pride, I don't know. I wanted to say that I walked from Nazareth to Tiberias. So, sorry, feet. Walked a little bit more, and I don't know why. It just was pounding. My feet were aching. And so I said, okay, let me pray. I said, God, I really want to be able to say that I walked from Nazareth to Tiberias. But I would also like a ride. I said, I don't want to hitchhike because I don't know who I will attract. But if you want somebody to pick me up, if you want me to get a ride, then have them stop without me even asking them. I'm just going to keep on walking. I don't know if that was foolish, brave, trusting. I don't know, but I was 21 back then. I was 20. I hadn't turned 21 yet. And as I was walking, couple of cars passed me, and I said, sorry feet, and God says, you're going to walk. And then a little pickup truck came by, slowed down, pulled over, and stopped. And I said, there's my ride. So I ran over to that pickup truck. I opened the door. I got in. I closed the door. And when I looked at him, he was just staring at me. You don't just get in somebody's car like that, But he was just staring at me, and I thought I could. That was my ride. God sent me this ride. So I said, I'm going to Tiberias. And he said, oh, I'm only going to the next city. There's no buses to Tiberias. I said, I know, but just take me to your city, and then I can continue walking. And I thought, that would be fine. Somebody else will pick me up and take me to the next little city. And then somebody else will take me, and, he doesn't have to go all the way. Just take me to your city. And by that time, he started driving. And he said, no, you spend the night at my house. I said, oh, wait. What did I just get myself into? Nobody knows I'm here. I didn't tell anybody I was leaving, and I'm going to somebody's house. Who knows if I'll even get out of there? I said, no, you don't understand. I need to be in Tiberias in the morning because I showed him my camera. I want to take the picture of the sun coming up from the Sea of Galilee. If I go to your house and take the bus the next day, I won't get my shot. I want the picture of the sunrise. I said, no. He said, no buses are going. You come to my house, you spend the night. And I was arguing with this guy, and then I said, God, why are you sending me this guy? And then I thought, wait a minute. I asked you for a ride, and this is who you sent me. Maybe you want me to go to this man's house. So I told him, okay, I'll go to your house. I don't know why. This wasn't my plan. I have a goal. But God sent me this ride. So I wanted to see what was going to happen. I said, I'll go to his house. When we got to his house, must have been like 1 o'clock in the morning by then. We got to his house. He told me to be quiet because his family was asleep. We went inside, and he led me to what I think was like a living room, except the walls went about this high. And then from there to the ceiling, it was like a cutout window on the sides of this room. It had the roof, it had the floor and furniture. There was a TV in there, so it wasn't like we were on a patio or anything, or a porch or something. It was a house, just with these big cutout walls, these cutout windows. And that was kind of strange to me to see that. What happens when it rains, But he led me to the bathroom nearby. He told me to take off my shoes, and he turned on the faucet in the tub and wet my feet, and it was really refreshing. And then he left, and he started making a lot of noise. And I thought, he told me to be quiet and listen to him. It turned out that he had woken up his wife and said, hey, we have a visitor. She went into the kitchen to make something for me to eat. Remember when I just ate? Remember that big meal that I ate to sustain my long journey about an hour ago? I was not hungry at all. But how do you not insult somebody when you're at their home and they offer you this meal and you don't take it? I was going to have to eat. I was not hungry at all. But fortunately, this man was just getting out of work, and he was starving. So the wife brought a big platter, sat it on the floor. We sat on the floor, and we shared this food. It wasn't like we each got our plates, but it was all there, and we would just take and dip, and, Fortunately, he was starving, and he ate most of it. And I did eat some, but I said, I'm full. And then I went to bed. He brought the sheets and some blankets and all that, and I think he even slept in there. My plan was wait till he falls asleep and then crawl over the side of the wall and then continue on my journey. And it was a good plan. The thing that woke me up was the sun coming through those open windows right on my face. I felt that warmth, and I opened my eyes, and yep, the sun was right in my eye. And I said, oh man, I missed it. Why didn't I wake up? God, why didn't you wake me up? Well, he took me, after we ate breakfast, he took me to the little bus stop and had me get on the bus and said, take this to Tiberias. And I went there, and I saw why God had me stay at this man's house. Why was I going there? To take a nice picture of the sunrise on the Sea of Galilee. When I got there, I saw that, there was a lot of mountains around this water. So all of the steam coming up, or the moisture coming up, plus the heat of the sun and all that, a lot of fog, a lot of haziness. It would not have been a good picture. It was a terrible day to take a picture. And can you imagine if I had ended up walking the whole way, maybe crawling the last part of it, and I get there to take my picture, and it was a terrible day to take a picture. I would have been upset. I would have been angry. God knew that I didn't need the pride of saying that I walked from Nazareth to Tiberias, but I needed to save my feet, save my shoes, and get some rest. Now, which Bible text comes to mind? I lived this Bible text. It's the one that was read for scripture reading today. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. God, I don't know who I would attract if I hitchhike, so I don't want to hitchhike myself, but I do need a ride. So if you want me to get a ride, have somebody stop without me asking them. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. And lean not on your own understanding. No, you don't understand. I can't stay at your house. I need to be in Tiberias in the morning to take a picture of the sunrise. You don't understand. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him. Say, God, I asked you for a ride, and this is who you sent me. Obviously, you want me to go to this man's house. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. My path was from Nazareth to Tiberias, the prideful way. And he said, no, why don't you go spend the night at this man's house to save your feet and get some sleep. You'll know why in the morning. So, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Now, I feel like that's my text because I lived it. And there are other texts that maybe I have experienced as well, but this is my favorite because it showed me that, even though I have my own plan, if it's not in accordance with God's, it's not a good plan. If I make a plan for the wrong reasons, it may be a good plan. But because I wanted to say, be proud and say, I walked from Nazareth to Tiberias, that's not the good reason. So, I don't know. I just feel like what I learned from this is if I give my plans to God and let him approve them, I'll be good. I want to end with, I might be early. I want to end with a story because I changed my talk tonight. I was going to talk about sports and tie in some scriptures based on some of the sports that I used to play. And this is the last story of that series, so I'll go ahead and insert it here. When I was in college, I went to Southwestern Adventist College, and this was before Adventist colleges competed against other schools. I think they were starting to at that time, but in this particular year, we just had intramural sports. We just competed against ourselves. I was playing flag football, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. It's not dangerous because nobody gets tackled. You wear this belt with little flags, little strips that can easily be pulled off. So as you're running with the ball and they pull that off, you're down. So we're playing flag football. And this was not the championship game, but it was an elimination game, which meant if we won, we would continue. And if we lost, that was it. So this was an important game. We were down to the last play. We were on the last few seconds, like 8 or 10 seconds left in the game. My team was winning, but their team had the ball. Now I'm going to introduce to you a person by the name of Keith Gray. I don't know if any of you know Keith Gray. He used to be a youth minister or youth evangelist or something in the Michigan conference. Last I saw him, he was back at Southwestern in their advancement or in their recruitment department. But he was on the other team. So we were both playing this game. It was down to the last play. We were winning, but they had the ball. All they had to do was make a touchdown and they would win. If we prevented them from making a touchdown, we would win. So we got in a huddle and we said, okay, they're probably going to throw a Hail Mary. Now, I don't know how many of you know what a Hail Mary is in football. In football, in a situation like this one, everybody runs to where the touchdown is, the end zone. Everybody runs to the end zone, and the quarterback, basically, he throws up a prayer. And he hopes that one of his team will catch it. So that's a Hail Mary. And it said they're probably going to throw a Hail Mary. So what we are going to do is we're going to run down there and we're going to keep them from catching this ball. That's our goal. We don't have to catch the ball. In fact, all we have to do is knock it down. As long as they don't catch it, we're good. So we don't have to catch it. Let's just knock it down. Okay, so that was our plan. I'm pretty sure they huddled and they said, okay, we're going to throw the Hail Mary. Everybody run down there, and one of you on our team, please catch the ball. Okay, so there we are. We line up. They hike the ball, and sure enough, everybody runs over to the end zone. And as I run over there, the quarterback is there waiting to throw the ball, and Keith is right in front of me. Keith Gray is running my direction, and then I saw him trip and fall. And as I saw him fall down, I looked at his face. And there were like many different expressions, one right after another. First, embarrassment. A grown man falling, you get embarrassed. So that was, and then disappointment because he didn't have time to get up, turn around, and catch that ball. He was out of commission. As far as he was concerned, the game was over for him. He was no more use, no more value to the team. And then I saw him turn it kind of like an angry expression. But by that time, the quarterback had thrown the ball. So I didn't focus on that. That was all a split second. I saw him fall, saw all of that, but then I looked up. And here were two teams mixed in together, all looking up, waiting for that ball to come. Two different teams, one ready to knock it down, one ready to catch it. Now, it wasn't me, but somebody from my team knocked it down right into Keith's hands. And I looked at him again, at his face, all of these expressions in his face. First, shock. How did this get here? And then surprise, And then he looked down at his feet. Had his feet crossed the line? They had, which means that he just scored a touchdown. He grabbed that ball and he jumped up and down. That image is still in my mind, him jumping up and down with this, shouting because he won the game. And I looked at the referee. The referee could not believe it. But I said, is this real? Did they win? And he just looked and put his hands up, touchdown, and they won the game. And we were done. I could not believe that game was won by somebody who had fallen and was out of commission. You know what that tells me? In our Christian walk, we make mistakes. Sometimes we fall. But just because we made a mistake and when we fall, doesn't mean that God can't still use us. Doesn't mean that it's over. Just because we fall doesn't mean that we're useless. Now, of course, in the Bible, we have situations of prostitutes. Jesus says, go and sin no more. They turn their life around. We have murderers. In fact, David was instrumental in having somebody killed, and yet he became a man after God's own heart. Just because you do something wrong, just because you fall, just because you make a mistake, does not mean you stay there. Does that mean you're unuseful? God could still use you in whatever that situation is. And Keith kind of showed that to me because in my mind he was out. I didn't have to worry about him, except when somebody swatted it down, he was right there in the prime position to catch that ball. Sometimes we are in prime positions. We're not expecting somebody for us to witness to, but they show up right in our laps. We're not expecting different situations, but God has us there. He allows us to go through the falling experience or the mistakes or the disappointments or the embarrassments or whatever, because that's where we need to be in order for something coming up ahead. And if we can just look at our situation is in God's hands, all of these things that happen to us will make more sense. When we don't keep our eyes on God, though, we miss the ball. The ball could have landed right in front of Keith. And he was in the right position, but his hands were not ready for it. But because his hands were still there, he was able to make that catch. We could be in situations in prime locations that God puts us, but unless we're looking, unless our senses are there, we may miss many balls that may drop right beside us, all around us. So let's just keep in mind that, first of all, that when we do live our lives, we need to be upright and all of that. I'm not saying to go make a mistake so you can be used by God. I'm saying He can use us in spite of our mistakes. There's going to be two groups in the end, all mixed in together, looking up into the sky at this object coming down. One group is going to see that bright light and want to swat it down. They're going to call the rocks and the mountains to fall on them because that brightness is unbearable. The other group, looking at that same object, is going to be raising their hands, saying, "Lo, this is our God. We have waited for Him. He will save us." They're ready to receive Him. Two groups of people in the end. And the group that is waiting to receive Him are going to be noticing the graves opening up. and the dead in Christ will be rising up, going up to meet Jesus. And then we which are alive, that group, is also going to be caught up into the air to meet them, to be with them. Going to be traveling through space, past planets, past galaxies or through galaxies, until we reach heaven. Can you imagine what that's going to be like? When we finally get to the pearly gates, and God the Father is right there waiting for Jesus, Jesus walks up to them. And he points at us. And he says, Father, they followed me home. Can we keep them? And he's going to say, yes. Enter the gates. That's something that I would like. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be.